Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back. This is Force of Force StarCraft 2 Strategy, your number one location for step-by-step strategy and tutorial videos. Today we're going to be taking a look at a Zerg strategy. This is going to be a good, strong response to a Protoss opponent who is going for ground pound and basically playing defensive and walling themselves in. So our Protoss opponent in this scenario is going for the basic Protoss ground army with a mix of stalkers, sentries, and zealots, and also playing defensive in the fact that he's choking in, making it difficult for us to eke in any Zerglings or anything, basically creating like a narrow choke point and funneling our units into a death trap, essentially. So to circumvent this, rather than going for the standard Baneling bust, which can sometimes not be effective due to a player's ability to build more buildings behind where the Banelings are busting through and basically nullifying their existence. Basically, they were killing themselves for nothing because they're not actually allowing your units to get into their base. So the flip side of this coin here, what we're going to be looking to do instead of going for that typical Baneling bust is actually some play with the Nydus network, using Nydus worms to get into our opponent's base and sneak in units that way, as opposed to, again, trying to bust through their front door with Banelings. So what we're going to be looking at here, again, we're facing the standard Protoss ground army, so working within our tier 1 limits, we would be playing around with some speedlings and some roaches. That's what our composition would be at this point early in the game. Speedlings doing very well against the stalkers and roaches doing very well against the zealots. So what we're going to be doing is we're just going to be getting a basic kind of opener here. I'm going with that 14 spawning pool followed by the extractor. And then now that we have some scouting going on in the Protoss player's base, we saw, okay, there was nothing going on in the central base. I'm going to go ahead and check north for that choke point, see if there's anything going on up there, and as you can see, that's when we do see that gateway. So we are aware at this point that he is going to be kind of walling himself in here, and this is where we can go ahead and respond. So we're going to be just starting the game off here, again, pretty standard opening with the 14 pool followed by extractor. After this point, we're just going to be pumping drones, getting our economy up. And then we're going to be getting a handful of Zerglings just to assist with any early game aggression. Usually 2 to 4 Zerglings is enough, again, because we do have this full scout information, so we do see what's coming, and we haven't even seen one Zealot come out yet, and there we go, we just see the first Zealot. So up until this point, we have known that we don't really need any Zerglings. Now seeing that Zealot coming out, we're going to go, that's not where I wanted to click at all. We're going to go ahead and make some Zerglings to respond to that. We also have our Queen coming as well. And just about that time when the Zealot's going to get here is when those units should be popping out. Zealots are incredibly slow moving. Look at that. They really need to work on their cardiovascular activities here. Try to get that run speed up. Try to go for the 7-minute mile, if you will. Anyways, Zerglings are out. A couple more Zerglings coming on right now. Queen's just about out, and look at that. Like right about when the Zealot gets here. And he didn't want to push up himself because one lone Zealot doesn't do too much. Usually as a Protoss player, if you're going to move in with Zealots, you want to do at least with 2. Had that one Zealot gone in, he just would have fallen to these Zerglings, and with some proper micro, the Zerg player may have not even lost any Zerglings, so definitely that would be a waste of a Zealot. So I'm going to be moving in now, but again, we see we do have that Queen moving up to prevent any sort of harassment that we could be seeing here. Taking a back look at the Protoss player's base, we do see that wall-in occurring with that narrow choke point. With just one Zealot is enough to kind of block that off, stop any units from sneaking in. As far as any tech or anything, kind of slow on that assimilator, but he was just going for that early game Zealot aggression, so that's why he needed those minerals. These Zealots pushing forward, but again, these Zerglings coupled with this Queen is going to be enough to fend it off. So yeah, I mean, basically what we've been seeing so far is we're going for that heavy economy, and then responding with Zerglings as needed for the defense that we need. And now that we have warded off that, we're going to go ahead and try to push forward. Again, we are aware of this choke, so we do know that we're not going to be able to push through, but we're going to see if we can do any damage to these buildings, kind of force him to move out, and then try to sneak in, because that's definitely sometimes a possibility, especially with speedlings. Trying to move forward, obviously that hold command with those Zealots are going to be too much. Getting us around on this Zealot, kind of a waste there. I don't know what the Protoss player should have pulled that Zealot back in, but anyways, again, we're at this situation here where we see, okay, now we have 2 choices. We have this wall in, we're not going to be able to run through, and now with this photon cannon back there, making it impossible for us to they would just completely destroy any Zerglings that came up to try to take out these buildings. So this is where we're kind of at an impasse. This is where we kind of make that decision. All right, I'm going to go ahead and tech up. I'm going to get some roaches now to respond with those zealots, because all we've seen so far are zealots. In fact, we don't even see a cyber... There, okay, we do have a cybernetics core. But all we've seen so far is zealots, so we're going to get roaches to deal with those. And seeing this wall, and this is kind of where we make that decision. We're going to go ahead and give the Nydus network a shot. Definitely very effective. Definitely can catch your opponent off guard. Now, for those of you who aren't aware of how the Nydus network works, it's kind of like a tunneling building, and you fill up your Zerg units into it, and then you load them out at the other end of it, where the Nydus swarm has been created. And you can do that anywhere that you have vision. So what you are trying to do here is get some vision on the outskirts of your opponent's base with your overlords, and that's where you're going to be dropping the Nydus network. And the good thing is, you can drop it in multiple locations to force your opponent to go to one area to try to stop it, and then once the units come out, you kind of fight off whatever he brings over, and then start creating the Nydus network in another area. So very good. You know, it's something I haven't really seen lots of it in League play at all. I mean, I've dealt with Nydus canals on occasion as Terran, but it hasn't been really a prevalent strategy that I've seen. So it's kind of still, it seems like it's still pretty fresh, not being used a ton anymore. I think when beta first started, people were definitely taking full advantage of it, but kind of died off and it hasn't been used as much. So maybe it's time that that resurges and comes back around. People start using that Nydus network again. Very effective tool, especially if you can use it properly. And like I said, try to divert your enemy's forces and pull them to two places at once. The Protoss player is going to be pushing out a little bit, but he just doesn't really have sufficient force at this point. He doesn't even have his warp gates in yet, still researching that. It's got 4 gateways, so he's going to be going for that 4-gate build. Again, basically just the default ground pound army for Protoss is what we're seeing here. Some zealots, a sentry, and going to be coming out with some stalkers at some point as well, I would imagine. There you go, some stalkers are building. But what he has right now is not going to be enough to push on the Zerg player. I think he's aware of that. A big part of the reason is that we were concentrating so hard on our economy early in the game, and as we said earlier, we didn't actually start making Zerglings until we saw the Protoss player was pushing out. So we kind of got a big boon in our economy, and because of that, we do have quite a massive force right now, definitely sizable. Now, again, we made that decision that we're going to be going with that Nydus network, so we're dropping that down right now. And as soon as that comes up, we're going to start spawning it in our enemy's base over here. Let's see where that first... Okay, so we're spawning it right here. That's our first decision. The Protoss player does spot that, so what he's going to be doing is going to be moving up some units to try to kill it off. So what we're going to do in response to that is just start spawning it in another area of his map. This is a very good reason as to why you should have overlords completely surrounding, or at least getting some really good vision on different parts of your opponent's base. You know, try to clamp them in, get an overlord on either side, 2 to 3 overlords preferably. So again, we killed that one Nydus network and we started spawning in the other area. Now we're going to be spewing out some units here, forcing him to respond to this, because obviously this amount of force is going to take out anything he has over here. So we force him to respond to this Nydus swarm. And while this whole thing is going on, what we're going to be doing is spawning another Nydus swarm at the other end of his base. And there you go, second Nydus swarm coming up, going to be spitting out some units there too. We have been managing to push back his forces here. It's a pretty even battle, but with some micro, these roaches should definitely prevail. Just roaches are so strong versus these gateway units. And he is finally seeing that the second Nydus swarm is spitting out more units, and it's going to appear to be too much for him to handle. So yeah, pulling back to try to respond to the second Nydus swarm, but we still have all these roaches in the front of his base. I'm going to be taking out this nexus and then pushing forward into his base. So basically negating anything that he's done so far. Now he's going to be able to take out the second Nydus swarm, but you know, it's not really a big deal at this point. We have so much in his base, and if we decided to, we could just go ahead and put one more right up here while his units are distracted in the southern corner of his base. I don't think that we actually do that though. I guess we decided it's not really necessary in this game. So again, yeah, this has been just a really good response to a Protoss player who decides to wall in and play defensively just with that gateway tech. Because again, these roaches are going to be so strong. Roaches and speedlings are going to be so strong versus that gateway ground pound that this can be a very effective strategy. It's basically an alternative to going for that baneling bust and trying to break through the front door. And as I said before, the baneling bust can be a little bit risky because you don't always know if it's going to be successful. If they do decide to build more buildings behind the ones that you end up busting through, then it could just be all for naught, essentially. So just a little bit of micro wars going on, but this is just the Protoss player is definitely overwhelmed at this point, especially considering that we have another Nydus worm up in his base, so some more speedlings are going to be coming out. And there you go. It's definitely just way too much for him to handle at this point. Goes ahead and calls good game. So again, just taking a look here, basic stuff. We started off with a normal Zerg versus Protoss build order, going with that 14 spawning pool, followed by the extractor. We just started to pump drones hard, and then in response to seeing, again, scouting with our overlords, always scout your opponents. No matter what race you are, no matter who you're facing, always scout. Always want to know what's going on. So with our scouting overlord, we waited until we saw some zealots coming, until we started making Zerglings and our first queen. And then after seeing that he was going for that front wall off, instead of choosing to go for that baneling bust, what we did was we teched up to a layer. We got that Nydus network, and some speedlings and roaches is what we were using to Nydus worm into his base. And we were just able to circumvent that frontal wall off and get straight into his base and kind of wreak havoc. So again, guys, this has been for StarCraft 2 strategy. I just want to let you guys know that if you like our videos, if you like what we're doing, if you like our strategies, our production, the way we present things, go ahead and subscribe to our channel. It's definitely really important. Basically, I'm going to be frank with you guys. The amount of videos we produce and the frequency in which we produce them is going to be largely dependent on how popular this is within the community. Basically meaning if we get a lot of subscriptions and a lot of people seem to like what we're doing, then we're going to be pumping out more videos more often. So if you like what we're doing and you want to see more stuff, then make sure you subscribe and tell all of your friends to subscribe. And then tell all of your friends' that they should subscribe as well. So again, guys, keep an eye out. Look out for more videos from us. Again, this has been for StarCraft 2 strategy. Keep watching and keep owning.